Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody, your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. I'm Bob Matthews. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss a day of our coverage. Week 17 is in the books. Another loss for the Burgundy and Gold, 30-23. Cowboys beat the Commanders in the home finale at Northwest Stadium. You know, this game really just had an air of inevitability about it pretty much all day long. And considering where we are right now, it's not necessarily such a bad thing. One thing, the most striking thing that came out of this for me, and, it'd be easy to sit here and just, highlight all of the bad. That's really easy to do, but I really think it's important, especially these last 2 weeks. You got to look for positives to build on for next year. And I will say this for Dan Quinn, and I know DQ is getting a lot of flack, and a lot of it deserved this year, but this team has not quit on him. They went out and played with effort today, and they played with speed. They were out there giving maximum effort. Problem is, this team just doesn't have the personnel right now, and that's because of injuries. But even with all that, I think that we saw actually some pretty good signs out there on the field today. I think actually, maybe even, and you might consider this a hot take, but I think going into next year, they're going to be in better shape than the Cowboys are. I mean, does Dallas have injuries on both sides of the ball? Yeah, everybody does this time of year, but not in the way that the Commanders do. And I think we saw some, for the most part, if you take the overall game, I think you saw some pretty good play. You also saw some fairly lousy play at times. Chunk plays, long touchdowns, stuff. But you know what? That's stuff that we've been watching this team do all year long. And I think a lot of it has to do just with the fact that they don't have the personnel, especially on defense. And a lot of that has to do with injuries. Again, the way this roster was constructed, and we have been saying it for a number of weeks, it's not just the number of injuries on defense, but it's the guys who have gotten hurt. And I think that was just the case again today. But, still in all, when you look at things overall, even though, the Cowboys piled up almost 500 yards of offense, 211 on the ground. I mean, Malik Davis, who, by the way, came in relief of Javonte Williams, had 103 on the ground on his own. You can't let that happen. And the Cowboys were effectively able, to run the clock out. The defense, Washington's defense, wasn't able to get any stops in the first half, got no stops on fourth down, very few on third down throughout the day. But again, going back to what we were talking about, the fact that the guys that were on the field continue to play hard. I mean, they got torched in the first half. Yet the second half, they only gave up 6 points. What else can you say? You can't ask for a whole lot more than that, with the exception, obviously, of not giving up 17 in the second. My point is that, with the deficiencies they have on defense, there wasn't a whole lot they were going to be able to do against an offense as good as the Cowboys. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised they only held them to 30. Again, holding them to 6 points in the second half, I think, was actually a pretty good job. And there were some individual performances out there that I think this team can build on. At least it gives us a sense of what do we want to see next week in Philly when the team finishes off the season. What do we hope to see there that might let us say this wasn't just a flash in the pan, this wasn't just some guys playing well against a really bad defense in Dallas, but something that you can build on from next year. One of those is Bill Merritt. Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt had a great game. 11 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns, and, of course, that 72-yard house call that he ripped off. It was really, really impressive. He ran hard. He held on to the ball, something he hadn't been able to do much of this year. And, again, he gave himself a chance, in the season finale to come on in, earn another start. If he can do that again against that Philadelphia defense, even though they're probably going to be resting some starters, now again, you've got something to build on for next year. And again, overall, when you look at the offense, it was just limited because of the fact that the Cowboys just ran so many more plays. I think I saw somewhere, at one point, Dallas had run like 62 offensive plays and Washington had run 34, something like that. When you look at the overall stats, there's not a whole hell of a lot that you can hang your hat on. Ben Sinnott had 3 catches, but they were late. I think all 3 of them were. He didn't do anything really to get open early in the game. So unfortunately, it was another chance for Sinnott to show that he can be the number 1 tight end next year. And, it just didn't happen. Terry McLaurin had, another great game. I think that's going to go down that decision will go down as being Adam Peters' probably worst of the season and his biggest mistake, playing hardball with Terry to where he sat out all of the offseason as well as training camp. I think that really helped him this year, hurt him this year. But I think Bill Merritt, playing as well as he did, gives us a really, really, interesting prospect to look at next week against Philly. I was surprised when I looked at the stat sheet and saw that Treylon Burks just had the one catch and 2 targets. I thought he was more active than that, but hey, stat sheet doesn't lie, does it? So that was good. Also, I thought that Johnny Newton played really well. It was easily his best game of the year. Wound up with 9 tackles, 3 of them solo, had 3 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss. Now, again, you have to kind of temper this by the fact that the defense, again, gave up 211 yards on the ground. That just can't happen. But, hey, he looked good in there. This was the first game when Newton, that we've seen Newton really, really flash like this. I mean, this was by far his best game of the year. So again, against a pretty good Philadelphia offensive line, and granted, maybe without some of its starters next week, but let's see if Johnny Newton can replicate that again next week against Philadelphia. If he can, we're talking about a guy they invested a 2nd-round pick in. There's something else that you can build on for next year. So what is next? Well, it is that trip to Philadelphia, playing the Eagles next Sunday in Philadelphia. We don't know the time of it yet. It's a TBA. We were wondering if it was, obviously early in the year, we thought it would be a 4:25 game or maybe even a Sunday night game. Not going to surprise me if they flex it out of those, and into the 1 o'clock window, just because the fact that Philly doesn't have anything to play for, and obviously at 4-12 right now, neither do the Commanders. So we will see what we shall see. Hope all of you had a very Merry Christmas. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday as we get ready for the season finale. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And like the wise man once said, if you're out on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.